back to Brassionomics, everyone. Heather Moore filling in for Ben Brashen. And joining us now is Kevin Britt, an attorney with the law office of Kevin L. Britt. And he focuses primarily on legal matters involving condominium owners and homeowners associations and maintains a blog developed to his practice and is a regular contributor to the King County Bar Bulletin. And his blog has a lot of really great information on it. You do a good job with that, Kevin. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well, Heather. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on the show. You brought with you today an interesting article that kind of pertains to the work you do. And I'm going to let you explain the premise of it, but kind of that the header was real estate agents want to sell homes, associations want informed owners, and the end goal isn't all that different if they work together, but there seems to sometimes be a clash.
Well, the premise of the article is that real estate agents and community associations have to work together. Mm-hmm. There are going to have to be sales, and community associations are going to have to be involved in providing necessary information to real estate agents to facilitate those transactions, which causes clash, which causes conflict, which often leads to threatening words between the two, and anger and resentment and frustration. What this article is saying is that there are many causes of that, but that if both sides try to understand the differing cultures that they're in, and that's one of the more interesting pieces of it, is that there are different cultures that they're in. If both sides try to understand where the other is coming from and make concessions to that, they can work together, and it's good for both.
Can you provide us some insight on where they clash maybe and how the cultures are different so people can understand that listening a little bit more? Sure.
Well, the big takeaway from it is that in the real estate industry, there's a bit of a last-minute culture that goes on. Everything is now. Yeah. Hurry. And you, of course, and Ben are very familiar with that, everything is I need it yesterday. Yep. And condominium associations are run by volunteer board members. Sometimes they have relationships with property management companies and attorneys, sometimes not. But they are run by volunteers who have day jobs, and they are not used to responding to their various concerns about the association in a now fashion. Right. More deliberative pace, as the article puts it. I've also heard it used derisively as glacial pace. Sometimes it takes a while to get an association to respond. And one of the messages of the article is that real estate agents need to understand that that is just part of the process, and that they need to build into their process, to their timeline, adequate advance notice to the association about what they need to facilitate the transaction to make the sale happen. Yeah. If they do that, they can eliminate proactively a lot of the conflict before it ever starts. And it really goes both ways, because the association on the other end of the coin, when they are getting these threatening calls and emails from a real estate agent saying, you're violating your fiduciary duties, I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to call you at all hours of the day and night until you give me these documents. That isn't well received, and nor should it be. And so the associations on the other side of the coin think that the real estate agents are acting unreasonably, and why won't they give us adequate time to respond? Why are they acting this way? And so there's room for both sides to understand where the other is coming from. Associations absolutely need to either internally themselves, or acting through good professionals like attorneys and property managers, they need to provide the necessary documents in a reasonable amount of time, no doubt. But on the other side, the agents need to give them the opportunity to do so and not expect a last-minute response.
And what are examples of the types of information or demands that real estates generally are asking of condo associations, and why, and kind of explain that too?
Sure. Well, one big one is for any condominium transaction is a resale certificate, which lists a variety of information about the condominium unit and about the association, about its budget, about its meeting minutes, things of that nature, about delinquent assessments. And that is the major one where they are asking, provide us with a resale certificate and provide us with all the associated documents But there are also, in addition to that, that's a minimal legal standard.
Right.
But then they also have a variety of other types of documents that they may want to see, internal association records about their reserve study, or how often they have meetings, and different kinds of questions that they have to answer that it takes time for boards to respond to. And often the attorney does not have the access to that information without consulting with the board, which may only meet once a month.
Right.
So there, again, if the agents and associations, as the article says, are not enemies. They have to work together. They can, be in conflict with one another, but they're not. But they can, if they both are giving each other necessary allowances, they can work together successfully.
Right, and the real estate market we're in is rather competitive right now. So I can understand on the agent's behalf, that they want to hurry up, they want to get the information to their client. But I feel that waiting, to get everything is important, because it's paramount to the success of the buyer to have all the information disclosed to them.
Well, absolutely.
You can't move forward without it.
One of the big agent failings is not really educating the prospective buyer that they talk about in the article, is not telling them enough about what exactly the association's governing documents say, the declaration, the covenants, the rules. If there's a no pet restriction, that would be something that they would want to know about. Maybe there's a no smoking provision. There's a number of different, maybe there's a no leasing provision. There are big there are restrictions that could be, important restrictions that could be in these governing documents that a prospective buyer should know about. And one of the unpleasantness that the article describes is when they don't know about it, they buy it, and then there is a unpleasant surprise there.
Right, and the real estate agent's going to get a lot more flack from that than the irritants caused by a homeowners association delaying getting the information over.
It's better to take a little bit longer and to get it right. And it's really to use a meal analogy, sometimes it's worth the extra time and the effort to take the time to make a more complex meal than just throwing something in the microwave. But that's really what it's about, is that you need to take the adequate time to get the information that you need to have an educated purchaser. And that's what this is saying, is that the real estate agent actually benefits, because the agent then does not have a disgruntled client. The agent has someone who knows exactly what they're getting into, and then they are going to perhaps be a source of referrals for that agent later on, rather than someone who would perhaps say bad things about the agent if this went sour. So there is an interest in all sides. Associations absolutely have an interest in not getting into conflict with new owners over restrictions that the new owner didn't know about. And that's also covered there as well, is that associations benefit from real estate agents being educators of their prospective buyers.
Absolutely. Now, Kevin, you work with condominium owners, condominium associations, homeowners associations. Where do you fall into all of this? What's your role, and how do you help the two sides meet? And I guess, what's your kind of opinion on how to make the relationship work better? There's 4 questions. Go.
Well, where I fall is in the middle, as where it puts in the article, is that I'm in the middle of the two sides trying to help the association provide what the real estate agent needs to make the sale happen. And so I take that very seriously in terms of trying to work with that association to get those documents to them as quickly as possible within whatever reasonable deadline is set. The challenge becomes when I am given, again, a request that cannot be complied with, in the association's normal course of business. At that point, you have to find out what extraordinary measures can be taken to get the association's records provided in a timely way, and that's always a challenge. And I think that a little more understanding or empathy on the part of agents that this is not something that I can just wave a wand and produce would then make everything run a lot more smoothly. And that's what the article is mostly about, is that we're all going to have to work together. Attorneys representing condominium associations are not an enemy by saying you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, or by even telling them things that they may not want to hear about delinquent assessments or restrictions. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm trying to provide you with the documents and information that you need. I'm working with the association. It may take a little bit longer than you would like, though.
Well, I mean, you're all working towards the same goal. It benefits the association to have a new tenant. The real estate agents want to get a sale. Mm-hmm. The buyers want a new home.
Common interests.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's working towards the same goal. Speaking of common interests, the theme of the article and the clash between associations and agents, is that common? Do you see that a lot?
I would say that it is common in terms of that frustration I was just speaking about, is that in terms of the time frustration. That is a common complaint that I will see agents express is, why can't you do this more quickly? Because that is the culture in which they live. And I think of it in terms of fish swimming in a pond. I mean, that is what they know is a now culture where everything is done at the last minute, many things. And that's just not the same pond that associations and their attorneys swim in. We are used to, getting a request and then, and as quickly as possible we're dealing with it, but not the same day or the next day. And it feels a little offensive, I think, to association boards and their attorneys, for that matter, when real estate agents assume that you can drop everything and provide them with information right then.
Well, and, just to make a point of this, real estate agents are used to working most of the time with other real estate agents, so that must contribute, to the culture difference.
And that's exactly, I think that what I did not realize fully is that culture clash there, and it's a tortoise and a hare situation. And, associations are often tortoises when it comes to responding to these requests. And they can also be the bearers of bad news in terms of delinquencies or in terms of restrictions. And that is not something that is going to change. That may be something that in some instances kills a transaction, to find out that there's a pet restriction and we're not budging on that. Or there's $3,000 of assessments that need to be paid along with this transaction. We may be the bearers of bad news, but again,
that's important
we need
news
to let you know.
To bear. Joining us now is Kevin Britt, attorney with the law office of Kevin L. Britt. He practices condominium and homeowners association law. We just have about a minute left, Kevin. Is there anything else, notable from the article that you think is worth sharing and commenting on?
I do. I think that what is notable is that the article throughout, what's assumed is that associations do need to work with good professionals in order to comply with their legal obligations in this area, to produce records. And what that usually means is working with an attorney to at least look over the disclosure, if not help to write it, to make sure that the association is providing the information and documents that it's legally required to provide. And that's where I come in, as helping those associations to do that, among many other things.
Absolutely. Well, we recommend everybody works with top professionals, and that's pretty much one of the premises of these shows. I want to thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us. Great information. And I think it's really interesting to note that culture clash, but also that everybody's working towards the same goal. I can't imagine, buying a condo and finding out later on that I couldn't have my pet or I couldn't lease it, and then, having to go through that with the real estate agent and being like, why didn't we wait? We could have waited. I would have waited.
That's something you would want to know.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much for joining us. We have to go to break again. Kevin Britt, attorney with the law office of Kevin L. Britt. This is Heather Moore. You're listening to Brashonomics. We'll be right back after this break.